GEM's OpenQuake platform, which will be released officially on 21st of January, in 2 days from now. In the next couple of minutes, I will give you first a brief introduction to what GEM is. Then I will present what we'll find on the OpenQuake platform. And then in the third section, tell you something about impact GEM has already made in the applications of GEM's work in real life. And finally, a few words on the release event, the day after next day, day after tomorrow. Well, who is GEM? GEM is a real true public-private partnership, which has been founded on the initiative of the OECD about 6 years ago. So what is on the platform, this represents the work which has been accomplished in the last 6 years. Here is a list of private partners, sponsors actually. Then public institutions representing countries and governments, and international organizations. So overall, we have more than 25 public and private organizations in more than 16 countries that fund and steer the GEM Foundation, whose goal is actually the application of science for a transparent assessment of earthquake risk, which is meant to inform then in a later step, inform disaster risk reduction. Our vision is a world that is resilient to earthquake. Resilience means the capacity of any organization, be it private or public, of a nation, of a city, or a private enterprise or public enterprise, to withstand shocks. And earthquakes are a prime example of shock events, disasters. And our mission is to work together with partners, not just to do it centralized, to work together with partners to make the world resilient. And the goal is actually for GEM to become over the time the most complete source for earthquake risk resources. In doing our work, we follow 4 guiding principles. Collaboration, I've already mentioned that. Bringing people together to work on the development, on testing, application, and information sharing. Second guiding principle is to be credible. For that purpose, actually, we draw on the expertise of more than 250 leading earthquake experts and engineers all over the world to develop global best practice. The OpenQuake engine, which you'll find on the platform, and I'm going to talk about later, has already been tested in 80 countries. The third principle is openness. The OpenQuake engine has been developed in a true open source environment, and the access to the platform is completely open. And all that work has been done actually with the public good in mind. All data, all the tools, models, and the knowledge we have collected and developed are applicable on the OpenQuake platform It's a final goal to inform decision-making for risk mitigation and risk management. What are we doing? Our core activities are first to produce information for earthquake risk. Information, data on hazard, exposure, vulnerability, which combine to physical risk, and then going beyond physical risk to integrated risk, looking into socio-economic vulnerability. Second goal is to develop tools to assess the earthquake risk. Again, for hazard, exposure, vulnerability, physical risk, and integrated risk. The fourth activity, to actually do earthquake risk assessment and support earthquake risk assessment at all scales, from global down to regional, national, and global. And finally, to make all this expertise available. So technology transfer and training is an essential element of our activities to develop capacity, to develop training programs, training trainers, and produce online resources which helps the people to apply what they can find on the platform. So all this is actually collected and accessible on the OpenQuake platform. And the final goal over time is actually to make this information and the tools and the geographic coverage more and more complete, so that we are in a position to produce in some years from now a global earthquake risk report. And this is something which is actually well in line. This work we are doing is well in line with the draft agenda of the EO framework action number 2, which will have to be decided upon by the international community in Sendai in March of this year. The OpenQuake platform. What is it? It's a rich set of resources made available for hazard and risk assessment. In general terms, the OpenQuake platform includes the following resources. There's the engine, developed open source, which allows you to calculate hazard and risk on a cluster or a cloud, and in a later, maybe even on your own laptop. Then there are toolkits for hazard and risk modelers. These toolkits assist scientists and engineers and modelers to build models for hazard risk assessment, models for building exposure and vulnerability. In addition, there are capture tools to just capture data, to collect data, partially remote sensing or by direct field observations. And then going beyond physical risk, we work on socioeconomic vulnerability, assessments and tools and data. And so you find on the OpenQuake platform composite indices representing socioeconomic vulnerability. And decision support tools, which actually enable decision makers in the private and the public sector at all levels, risk managers, to make decisions on, for instance, retrofitting buildings, insurance solutions, or risk mitigation measures. That's another slide on the OpenQuake platform. It summarizes what you can find there. Open source tools, standalone or web-based tools, including the engine. Then documents, documenting best practice, how to do risk assessment, how to collect data, and so on. Technical reports, wikis, guidelines, case studies, and knowledge sharing apps. Then there are simply data, but it is not that simple. It's really global harmonized data sets. It's the result of the work of consortia that will grow over time. We have 10 such global programs, global components in established in the last 6 years. Then we have information to support risk assessment, maps, stochastic event sets, which are the necessary basis to do calculations on the probability of earthquakes and the resulting ground motion, and models. The OpenQuake platform is a repository for regional and national models, which all can be run on the OpenQuake engine. These regional models have been compiled by so-called regional programs who cooperated with GEM, and for national models, we actually use existing models which have been developed by the local experts. And finally, support tools, user guide and tutorials, because it is really very important that you get some guidance on how to use this, the variety of information and tools which you find on the platform. I've already mentioned regional programs, and this shows you actually what you can find on the platform in terms of regional and national models. I think there's no need to go into detail, but just to give maybe 3 examples. There was a regional program in Europe called SHARE, which produced a hazard model spanning all Europe. Another example would be the program for the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East. And there's a South American program which is actually managed directly by GEM. And there are national things like the Taiwan earthquake model, which is also an initiative which collaborates with GEM. Then for integrated risk assessment, actually we have here an example just shown you for the city of Quito in Ecuador. Indicators for social vulnerability, and we have already carried out such work for several other areas. And that brings us actually to application impact and application around the globe. There are, as I said, there are examples for that. One is a scorecard exercise to actually measure risk and resilience for the community of Lalitpur in Kathmandu Valley. And this exercise, actually, which was done with GEM tools, already facilitated the creation of a disaster risk management committee in that city. Another example, a training course, teaching and training course organized by the University College of London on physical vulnerability, teaching just GEM guidelines and how to work with GEM's databases. Another example, a reinsurance company actually constructed using OpenQuake and the information they had available, construct a risk model for the country of Ecuador. And so this curve shows you the probability of losses as a function, well, the amount of losses as a function of time, or the probability of losses of a certain size. And hazard maps, for instance, to be implemented in national building codes. And one example is Papua New Guinea. And there are other examples, for instance, Ecuador. Another example is actually OpenQuake was used to verify the hazard calculated for the site of a nuclear power plant in South Africa. This hazard assessment had been done with a different software, and OpenQuake was used as just for comparison and to see, if the results converge and can confirm what had been done in this original hazard assessment. So OpenQuake has actually this this capability to do also site-specific hazard assessment. And the final example, detailed damage scenarios for cities. And so this is here an example for Lima in Peru, the capital of Peru. Well, the release is on. GEM's OpenQuake platform will be officially released in 2 days, and all the included resources will be made freely available to the international community. Partners, scientists, academics, stakeholders from around the world will come together for the official launch event. The event will be opened by an opening address of Margareta Wallström, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction. And she will, among other things, present the progress achieved in the last decade by the Hyogo Framework for Action. This, which is the international framework adopted to guide disaster risk management on a global level. And she will talk about the important role actually GEM can play in the implementation of that. There will be dedicated booths actually, which provide detailed information about the platform, live demos, and will allow hands-on experience of the available resources. I would like to repeat our invitation for you to attend this important event, which is indeed a milestone in GEM's life. Finally, an invitation actually to get involved. First, learn more about GEM, and then get involved. Partner with us to facilitate risk assessment projects. Use GEM's tools and resources and share them back with the community. And work with us on developing capacity for advanced risk assessment. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I just continue or should we stop it?
I would stop it.
Yeah.